F-5E3 use 105 shells. Bring the rain.
The following is an adrenaline-packed 10-minute dogfight I recently experienced on the Alpenwolf Cold War server for DCS. I took my trusty F-5E up against Lithium in his MiG-21 Bis. I have been having the time of my life flying in DCS lately. The level of accuracy in the flight models has made War Thunder feel like an arcade game for mobile phones. Now, that's not to say that I'm any good. I considered myself a great top-tier jet player in War Thunder, but in DCS, I'm what can only be described as a scrub. The Alpenwolf Cold War server in particular is very enjoyable because it pits some of my favorite Cold War aircraft against one another. The MiG-21 Bis, the MiG-19, the F-5. All it's missing is a good simulation of the F-4, and we'd be off to the races. Some days there are also limited numbers of F-14As, limited to Sparrows, facing off against MiG-29s as well. I mention this because this server gives me the same level of entertainment of an enduring confrontation match in War Thunder without any of the concern of grinding for points. If I want to attack some ground units, I am doing that because I enjoy it, not because it feeds the snail. If I want to dogfight, I'm dogfighting a player, not their crew skill level. It's a much more level playing field where you can finally focus on having fun instead of focusing on the grind. And hey, that's just my 2 cents. If you feel differently, let me know in the comments below. I hope you enjoy this dogfight and analysis, and without further ado, let's go. Alrighty, so we are in the F-5E3 Tiger II, and Lithium is in the MiG-21 Bis. This was on a live public server. We've both taken off and been vectored to the visual vicinity here by our respective ground control intercept. I dropped my fuel tanks. I have plenty of internal fuel, in fact, full internal fuel at the start of this fight, 2 Sidewinders, and maximum gun ammo. So I gain tally on Lithium first, and I try and go up and over. As I point my nose at him, I have my Sidewinders selected. And at this point, I probably should have fired. Early, but waited a half second too late, allowing Lithium to gain tally. So as he crosses my nose, I go for a high aspect gunshot. But one of the things that you'll notice in this fight, and this does happen quite a few times, is the F5 requires the first detent to open the jet blast deflection doors, which takes about, tiny portion of a second, but it's enough to delay my shot. So I should be pulling half the trigger before pulling all the way so that I can get the rounds out early enough. And as we go into this one circle fight, and you can see on the left there, I've got the tacview. Lithium gets a little bit slow and needs to dump his nose, so he takes the fight right to the deck. So I'm in a rear aspect position. I believe at this point that I have a great Sidewinder shot, but the problem is that I don't hear a growl. And this is one of the distinctions, between flying the F-5E in DCS and flying the F-5E in War Thunder, besides the fact that the flight model is accurate in DCS, is that you actually have to look around and interact with the cockpit switches in order to get set up for a dogfight. If you're like me and you accidentally hit one of those switches before the merge, as far as I'm aware, that missile's a dud. So I'm now guns only. So as I go in here, I'm doing a pretty good job of keeping on Lithium's 6. I do believe that I'm lighter than him in this case because he has kept his fuel tank and he's got 4 R60s on his aircraft. So he's a little bit heavy, he's a little bit slow, but with the judicious use of that afterburner there, he'll soon lighten up. And you'll also see some tracer coming up from the ground, so we've got some light anti-aircraft firing up at the both of us, and from time to time those rounds will get close. So you can see here the nice ribbons that have been left by our path in the sky. It kind of always reminds me of Paths of Hate. It's a YouTube short I really recommend watching. But so here Lithium has a bit of a better rate as we go into the rate fight on the deck, but I'm just trying to keep my speed up to rate around the circle. And we're now solidly in a 2-circle fight on the deck, and I'm trying to maintain my speed now. At the time, I hadn't looked at the EM manual of the F5 yet. I'm keeping it right around 300, or in this case, just under 300 knots. It actually should be around 400 or 450, but I'm pulling back really, really hard. I'm cashing in that energy, and I'm going for a tracking shot here, and my rounds fall short, and they fall even more short. I think in this moment I'm blaming the gun sight, but in reality I just didn't have enough lead. And now Lithium reverses. I think he shouldn't have reversed here. I think he should have kept it in the 2-circle. And now as we go into this flat scissor, I'm pretty confident with my ability in the flat scissor because of the insane roll rate of the F5. But of course, there's a bit of a rolling component here. You know, we're going up and down a little bit, but it's essentially a flat scissor that we're going through. He does a great job of climbing above my nose there, so I wasn't able to get guns on. But of course, having not flown this aircraft very much, whenever I do get a shot opportunity, I'm always just a little bit late. And we get really close there. We get really, really close. You know, we're as much trying to just not ram each other as we are to get in a good gun position. And you can see here, Lithium has done a great job of controlling his forward velocity by using the vertical. And so I try and do the same thing. So I noticed that I got out in front of him. I was spit out in front. So I climb and roll. And this is a whole bunch of rudder here. I go for the shot. I do actually get a hit there. I finally finally got my head screwed on straight and got a good shot off. But again, I'm out in front. I'm not comfortable with that, so I go into the vertical again, and now we're in a bit more of a rolling scissor. So I pull down hard. When I'm at the top of that rolling scissor, I'm pulling as hard as I can to try and limit the amount of time I'm floating up there while he's gaining angles. And then here at the bottom, I'm not pulling as hard on the stick to try and get speed, so I can actually rate around that turn circle as quickly as I can, so that I can get my nose on first. And I have plenty of opportunities here. Obviously, not all of these are turning into hits. It would be great if they would. Some of them connect, but my aerial gunnery here I'll be honest, it's affected a little bit by the intense adrenaline that was pumping through my system, because this was the first good dogfight I'd had in quite some time. So here we go. I'm diving down on him here. Should have been a shoe-in, but he jinks right at the last second. So we're continuing the rolling scissor here. Now, I don't know about you guys, so there he goes. He used the vertical much better than I did there, and it actually presented him with an opportunity to shoot. He got really close to the ground there. You know, he pulled up just right at the last second. Here we go. So now we are going to transition back into the 2-circle. So I've got my nose in lag here. And this is intentional. I want to build my speed back up. I don't want to just point the nose at him here. I want to get right into my rate band. Again, the rate speed of the F5 should be closer to 400 or 420 or 450 knots, I guess, depending on the altitude. I was keeping it right in around 300. And I was getting some angles here, so I go for a high deflection gunshot, a snapshot, and I do actually get a small hit. And as we continue this turn here, Lithium reverses. Now, again, I think that was a small error, as it put me in a good position to shoot, but again, maybe he was noticing that with my terrible aerial gunnery here, that was the safest place that he could be. Jokes aside, we did get a very, very solid hit there, right center of mass, and my best guess is that hit his engine, and I think in that moment I was thinking, well, that was a center of mass hit. You know, that engine should be out. This should be a shoe-in. But if you noticed, Lithium again used the vertical better than I did, and was actually presented with a shot opportunity of his own. And so it's important to keep your head in the game, so to speak, and not get too cocky, even if you get some hits on. Because come on, it's a MiG-21. It's strong. So here I'm checking. I actually noticed that I do still have a Sidewinder. I look down at the armament panel there, and boom, flick that switch. Now that rail and that Sidewinder is armed and active, so I can finally get that glorious Sidewinder shot. So I've got my nose in lag here, and I think Lithium thought that I was slow, and that's why I couldn't keep up with him. I was actually just staying in lag in order to get good separation for a Sidewinder shot. But we're back in the rolling scissor. I'm pulling as hard as I can. I'm so determined. I'm taking very short bursts here because I think I'm running low on ammunition. I actually wasn't. There's tons of ammunition in the F5, but I thought I was running low, so I'm doing very, very small bursts, trying to be as conservative as possible. And I'm feeling pretty good in this position here. I fire, but I miss. Now, I think at this point, Lithium's engine had actually quit from the earlier hits, and he goes straight into the deck here. And I have to say, that's probably one of the longest dog fights I've ever had, outside of warbirds. Jets, generally speaking, 1-2 turns and you're done. So this was just completely exhilarating. And I think that this is one of the distinguishing things about DCS for me. It's that at the end of the day, you don't have a crew skill. You can't pay dollars for golden birds and and level up your crew skill. The G effects that we experience, that our pilots experience, and the accuracy or spread of the guns, that's all modeled. It doesn't matter who's flying it and what account is flying these aircraft. It's a simulation. They're meant to represent the aircraft, not the crew. The crew difference, the difference between Lithium and I, is our skills as fighters. And today, I might have won in the F5, but I can tell you I've fought him plenty of times, and he's shot me down a fair number. So I'm using all my dirty tricks in this one to try and get the better of him. But I think this was a great fight because it demonstrated, the one circle at the beginning, the flat scissor, rolling scissor, the two circle, guns, missiles, pretty much everything that you could possibly ask for. And if you're, fascinated about Cold War aircraft like I am, this is absolutely scratching that itch. So, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'm going to be making some more DCS content going forward. This is my primary sim now. I think I've realized that what I value in a simulator is simulation. So the ability to go up there and actually be able to, interact, flip those switches, and employ real tactics against other players. And I'm just so, frankly, frustrated and disappointed in the direction that War Thunder has gone with these simulator battles. That's a topic for a whole nother video. But that being said, hope you enjoyed this one. If you do, please drop me a like. If this is your first time at the channel, please subscribe. And I will see you next time.